What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 35 of the Blue River Bowhunting Podcast. I have a really unique show lined up this week with Kyndel. I don't want to mess your last name up, so is it Hagedorn?
Hagedorn.
Hagedorn.
Yep.
I'm terrible. I'm
You're good.
a hillbilly from the Midwest. I'm not the most educated guy there is. But yeah, met Kyndel on TikTok. She has her own outdoor page on TikTok, and that's how we met when I put a post out there, asking people if they want to come on the show. But Kyndel, introduce yourself to anybody that may not know you.
All right. My name's Kyndel Hagedorn. I am 24 years old. I'm from mid-Missouri, around Herman area. Grew up around here, maybe about 45 minutes east, and then moved over here to Herman area where my family farm is located at.
That's awesome. So I usually, for people that don't know, when I do these shows, I usually have the guests send me like an email, just tell me a little bit about themselves, how they got into stuff and all that. And you blow everybody out of the water. You sent a pretty big email, and I enjoyed reading it, talking about hunting with your dad and all that sort of stuff. So is that how you got started in the outdoors, was about your father?
Yep. I mostly did fishing when I was younger, and then around the age of 7, 8, I started going with my dad, not really me hunting, me just tagging along. And then around when I was 11 years old is the first time he actually took me. I took my own gun and I shot a button buck, and pretty much after that, I was pretty much addicted.
Yeah,
Anything outdoors related.
Absolutely. That's how it usually starts, one way or the other. Talk about Missouri and like the opportunities you have being in Missouri, public, private sort of conversation with land and all that sort of stuff. Talk about hunting Missouri a little bit.
Where I hunt, it's a lot of private land, but there is a lot of opportunities for public land. A lot of conservation areas don't require you to draw or put in for tags. It's kind of just walk in wherever. I can probably go 20 minutes north, south, east, or west and hit a public spot that I can go just whenever. And a lot of times they're pretty big areas to where you don't really run into other hunters that much, which is pretty nice. And I know a lot of people around here go and they shoot a pretty decent sized buck in public land.
I feel like Missouri is kind of overlooked in the whitetail world. You get everybody that wants to go to Illinois and Iowa and Ohio. I feel like Missouri is kind of in the same conversation as Indiana. I feel like it's a sleeper state when it comes to whitetails.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really talk about Missouri too much, but I think it's great. I think we have pretty decent bucks. I mean, anywhere from, like on average, I say like 120 to 130 inch deer is a pretty average deer around where I live here in mid-Missouri. I'm not too sure about southern, but mid to northern, there's pretty decent sized bucks running around.
Yeah, absolutely. I came over to Missouri last spring turkey hunting over there, and the people that we leased off of were showing us some trail cam photos, and that was northwest Missouri, and there's some tanks up there.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, maybe I need to come hunt Missouri because your guys' tags are very affordable.
Yeah,
and,
for non-residents, they're pretty cheap.
And then there was some kind of deal where, like an archery tag, where if you buy your archery tag, they give you turkey tags with it.
Really? I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, that's what I read anyways. I guess it's like a fall bow tag, obviously, and then they give you like 2 turkey tags with it for free.
Oh, man, maybe I should look into that. I have not heard of that at all.
There you go. You have quite a bit of turkeys around where you're at?
Yeah, but they're very hard, or I just suck.
Turkeys can be hard, especially eastern birds, which what you would be hunting.
Yep.
Just depends on where you're at. I've been in Indiana where they've been, seems like impossible to hunt. Missouri, I got on them fairly decent, and then where I was at this year in Michigan, it seemed like they were everywhere and very vocal. And it's weird because a lot of people say that that's like the hardest bird to kill in a Grand Slam is an eastern, just because they're so hard to get on. But you'll get there one day. The more practice you get, you'll figure it out.
I got pretty close this year, but
That's awesome.
Not quite.
A question that I've been asking people for a while now is traditions of like your family or your state. Talk about traditions that maybe you and your family have for deer season in Missouri.
We don't really have too many traditions. We mostly just, I don't know about how it is everywhere else, but just deer camps, kind of just going in between all the little families around here, each have their own deer camp and going around talking to everybody, putting your buck in the back of the truck and just driving around,
Yeah, but
stopping at local gas stations to show it off a little bit. Pretty much that's all we really have around here. It's kind of a
yeah,
small town.
I like small towns. I'm from a small town myself, but I know exactly what you mean. It's like you put him in the back of the truck. You're driving home, and your buddy goes to shut the tailgate. No, 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 just leave it down. Leave it
Yeah.
down. I'm driving through town with it down. Do you guys have check-in stations in Missouri, or is it something that you do like over the phone or online?
We do it over the phone or online. I kind of miss I think it's mostly all online. I don't even know if I've called in years. It's all just on your like Missouri hunting app. Kind
Hmm.
of miss like the old paper tags you'd put around the antler. Kind of, I miss that. I miss the old ways like that instead of just using your phone.
Absolutely. I've talked about it on length on the show. I miss check-in stations big time. We used to have a little bait tackle shop in my hometown, and you drive through there on opening day and there's 25 trucks in the parking lot. Everybody's out there, telling stories and fibs probably, but I'm with you. But you told me that you're a self-taught bow hunter. Your dad or your family wasn't into bow hunting, and you wanted to get into it. Talk about that. Talk about what you had to go through and the lessons learned along the way.
Oh boy. Yeah. So after I shot my buck when I was 15, that was my last year for youth season. Um, Most of the people around me are in the Orange Army and they just rifle hunt. And I kind of was nervous about going into having to hunt with all the older people and having to kind of share the stand time and wanted to get a better chance at shooting a buck. And then that's kind of when I learned that bow hunting was a thing. I kind of felt like I lived under a rock for a long time. I learned bow hunting was a thing, and I begged my dad for one for Christmas. And so when I turned 16, he finally got me one. And I did not know anything when I first started. I just threw my stand up, a tree stand or a ladder stand, wherever I thought a deer would walk by, which was not where it was. It would just kind of sit in random spots and just, I didn't know much about the different types of broadheads or anything, or literally I knew nothing. I just kind of started from scratch. In the first 3 years, I barely even saw a deer because I wasn't in the right spots and didn't really know how to pattern a deer or even really use trail cameras until I was about 19. That's when I started to use those and started to learn, hey, you kind of got to know where they're at and when, and then that's where you put your stand up at.
Well, that's I feel like that's obviously a great way to figure it out is just jump right into it.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks that you didn't have like a mentor along the ways because like there was so many mistakes that I would make along the way, and my dad would just kind of get on me like, hey, you can't do that, man. You got to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And learning the whitetail woods is so fun. I mean, figuring out where they're crossing or where they're bedding and playing off of all those things, being a young bow hunter is pretty cool. What about you talked a little bit about trail cams. How many trail cams are you running right now?
Probably too many. Sometimes forget where they are. I run around one, two, three. I'd say 5 or 6. Not too many, but they're pretty spread out. So sometimes they're hard to get to all of them. They're on different properties, and I keep wanting more. But then I feel like when I have so many trail cameras out, and then each trail camera has good bucks, and I just never know what. Just almost too many spots to pick from when I do that. Kind of
That's
give
not a
myself,
bad thing.
yeah, too many opportunities. I
Is
always
it?
pick the wrong one.
I hear you. I make that mistake a lot myself. What about like the type of trail camera you running? You running just regular SD cards, or you running like the cell phone cams?
Yeah, I just have like the wild game innovation ones. I kind of want to get into the cell cam ones, but where I live, there's not much or any cell service. So I'm not sure how well they would work out there.
Yeah, I understand that completely. I had the same problem when I was wanting to take them down to Kentucky, where I have some property down there. But I love running old just SD cards. I have fun with it. I may check them too much sometimes, and that's probably something I need to work on myself. I like to go in there every couple of weeks and check them.
Yeah.
But where exactly are you putting your trail cams? Are you setting them up somewhere where you don't really want to go and you know the deer are at? Or are you putting them near bedding? How's that working out?
A few of them, I'd say half of them are kind of where my stands are already located, just kind of on the paths they're walking down. And then when there's like preseason, when I'm kind of looking around, if I start seeing an area with deer sign, I'll kind of just put them up there and be like, let's see if there's even really anything walking through here. Just kind of, I'll put them in spots where I'm not quite sure I want to put a stand, but a possibility of putting a future stand somewhere.
That's awesome. Uh, well, what about stands? What kind of stands are you running with?
I kind of have a mixture. I mostly shoot out of hang-ons, and every once in a while I have like one ladder stand that I go to every once in a while. And then whenever I have an area where I kind of want to check out and just sit for an evening, not really sure if there's deer, I'll take my climber and go out there. And then this year I really want to get into a saddle stand, but they're a little pricey and
Yeah, they are. I was fortunate enough to have somebody lend me a couple to check out in several different versions. Shout out to Adam Miller. But it's pretty cool to check it out for the first time. I wasn't really. I mean, I'm not the skinniest guy in the world, so I was kind of worried about the weight. But the ones that I tried out, it was a cruiser, I believe, the one that I really liked, and the way that it balanced my weight, I really like it, and I think it's something that I'm really going to like this year. I was kind of in the same boat as you. I was like, I don't know, that's pretty expensive just for one stand. Of course, you got to buy the lineman's belt to go with it, the actual tether, and then your climbing sticks, and the platform, and just everything. It's a whole setup, kind of like starting from scratch with a climber or something. But I'm excited. I can't wait. I think it's going to bring a whole new aspect to deer hunting for me, because I'm more of a lock-on type of guy, that I have my stand set up in August, September ish, with shooting lanes cut out, and I just go in and get up. It's something I don't really necessarily have to work at once I get in the woods, so that's going to be quite an adjustment for myself. But I think it's going to pay off in the long run and probably put me on more deer.
yeah, I really want to look into them a little bit more just because it gives you, I feel like, such a wider shooting range instead of having to like, oh, I can't shoot behind me. You can just shoot all the way around the tree and just have a lot more opportunity to shoot the deer.
Yeah, well, the one I tried out, which I would not recommend, is an XOP. I'm not trying to trash XOP by any means, but it's a hybrid deal. It's kind of like wearing a harness and a saddle in the same
Huh.
go at it, but I would not recommend it. It's like trying to put on one of those harnesses that aren't a hunter safety system in the dark. It's just like straps going everywhere. As in with the cruiser that I liked, I just put it on, buckled between my legs, and everything had its own kind of like pocket. It was very comfortable. It'd be super nice to walk in with. You're not loaded down with a climber on your back. That's what I've used for years when I go do stuff like that. So and another thing, when it comes to like the climbing sticks, a lot of people say don't skimp on them, spend the money, get the ones you like or whatever. But I did a lot of research, like hours and hours of research on climbing sticks, and I ended up going with a set that was fairly inexpensive. I think I paid like $150 for these things, and it's like half a pound difference or something. The ones that people are spending like $700 on,
Oh boy.
right? And I'm ready. I'm ready to get in the deer woods. Talking about deer hunting on here every week drives me nuts because I'm so ready to get back in the woods.
I can't imagine. I have tried the tethered brand of,
Hmm.
and I was up at Iowa Deer Classic, and they had a stand or a thing set up where you could practice sitting in a saddle stand. That one was a pretty nice one. And they had them. Should have bought it. It was on sale then at the Deer
Oh,
Classic. But I was like, I'll wait. But now I'm kind of regretting that a little bit.
yeah. I was kind of hoping for the same thing. We have the Indiana Deer Waterfowl and Turkey Expo in Indianapolis, which is like an hour for me. And I was hoping for the same thing. I was hoping tethered or somebody would have a booth. I could go check it out. Because I mean, I don't think you can just like say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," and just buy some random saddle and it pan out for you. I think you really have to do the research, maybe ask a buddy or somebody to try one out or whatever the case might be. But I don't think it's something that you can just wing, because you could really screw yourself pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of like with bows. Like, I just feel like you don't know unless you try them out. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way you could know.
Yeah, that's a pretty good example. And let's talk about that. What kind of bow? What kind of bow are you shooting?
I'm shooting an Elite Ember. It's like a youth woman's bow. It goes
Hmm.
all the way up to 60 pounds though, so
Oh,
I don't
nice.
really have any use to go higher than that. But it's kind of, I think it goes, I forgot what the minimum one was, but I think I'm right at like 55-ish pounds right now, and I don't think I really need to go higher than that for how far comfortable I feel shooting.
Right.
But it's pretty nice. I was shooting a Quest Radical. It was like a little $200 bow that I started out with, but I definitely like the Elite. It's really light and quiet and a really easy shootable bow, I feel like, for women.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about Elite. That's actually what I'm probably going to be going to as well. I've had my Matthews Monster for, I mean, I think I bought it in like 2010 or something like that. So I've had it a long time. Super used to it. It's going to be hard for me to get not be using it on a regular basis. I might keep it just for like maybe turkey hunting or bow fishing or so. I never know what you're going to get into where you might just want to fling some arrows in the yard or whatever.
Yeah.
But the guy that I'm going to go to, the dealer, he is a elite dealer, and I've heard nothing but good things. I'm excited to go in there and try some of them out. You go to like a local bow shop, or did you go to like a sporting goods store?
Yeah, I went to a local bow shop and he let me shoot a little bit. And then after like the first two shots, I'm like, yep, this is the one I want. Didn't have to try anything else.
What about release wise? What kind of release are you using?
Oh, just, I don't even know, like a True Fire or True Ball. I can't remember. It's like I've had it for
Right.
since, but just a regular release.
I got you.
Yeah.
I know I've seen like on your TikToks and stuff, you've done like reviews on women's hunting clothing.
Oh, yes.
Talk about that a little bit. Talk about what you're going to be using this year and kind of how you fell into that.
Well, for the longest time, probably since I was 11 until 2.5 years ago, so it's like 21, 22, I was using like men's clothes or my dad's old hunting clothes forever. And then finally I was like, I'm tired of it not fitting right or just not being comfortable or keeping me warm. So I'm like, I hunt all the time, so I might as well spend the money on good hunting clothes that are actually going to keep me warm and fit good. So I first started out with DSG women's outerwear, and I absolutely loved it. I got a mid, early, and late season through them, and I absolutely loved it. But then I lost a lot of weight, so it no longer fit me anymore. So I sold it all, and I currently have like no camo. I'm kind of trying to decide what I want. But one
Hmm.
of the issues, like being a female hunter and finding the right clothes, is that nowhere really carries anything in stock. Like there's Cabela's and Bass Pro here in Missouri, and they carry their She brand, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Hmm.
But other than that, there's no other female brands that they carry and get to try on. And I'm not an online shopper. So I look like First Light. What else have I been looking at? Sitka and Prois are the three I'm looking at right now. And I got to try Prois on at Shields up in Iowa. And I ordered a mid-season set from them. So I have that, but I have nothing for early or late season quite yet. And I am looking around Missouri for Sitka dealers, and I keep calling them, and they don't have female clothes or women's clothing to try on. So it's kind of hard because I'm very in between sizes. But they has greatly improved the women's hunting clothing from when I first started. There's actual options now, which is kind of nice.
I bet. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm not much of an online shopper. I mean, I'll order this or that on there, but when it comes to my hunting clothing, I'm like you. I want to try it on. I want to see how. I'm not going to spend that much money on something, and then I get it and don't like it or even hate it or something, you know. And I fell in love years ago. I can't remember exactly where I was at. I think it might have even been Gander Mountain when that was a thing here
Yeah.
in Indiana, but they had scent blocker, and I fell in love with my. I had I don't know, everybody in my family on both sides got me a Gander Mountain gift card for Christmas one year, so I had a bunch of money to go in there and spend. So I wanted to really buy myself something nice when it come to my whitetail clothing, because you're out in the elements and you just want to have something nice, And got the scent blocker fleece dream season suit, I think is what I ended up getting. Absolutely loved it. And then since then, I've obviously gotten a little bit bigger since those days, but I stuck with the scent blocker, and it's something that I'm pretty loyal to. I know some people don't really care when it comes to their clothing, but it's something that I really like, and I'm probably always going to use.
Yeah, I think this year I kind of want to I'm going to get different sets from different brands and just kind of try them out and then figure out which brand kind of fits me the best and wears a little bit better. And then once I kind of get set on to a certain brand, then kind of start racking up my closet again.
Hit list. Talk a little bit about some of these bucks that you've been chasing. I know you sent me the picture of the one buck tank that you had, which, oh my God, when I opened the picture, I was like, oh my God, that thing is a tank. Talk about some of these deer you've been chasing.
Yeah, he's the one I've been after for the past going on 2.5-ish, 3 years, I guess. Yeah, once I saw that picture on my trail camera, I was like, oh my Lord.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't get much sleep if I had that picture, which I'm kind of in the same ballpark. I have a deer that's big like that that I've been chasing for multiple years, and it like when you talked about before, making the wrong decision to go to a different spot or here, and it always happened like that. It seems like when I was at work, I would get pictures of him on my cell cam, and it's like, man, I wish I was in that stand this morning. And then I would make the decision to sit there that weekend, and then didn't see anything. And I've been chasing one like that, which he's turned into a ghost the last 1.5 years or so. But I know how frustrating that can be.
Yeah, well, I didn't get big by being stupid, so.
Right.
But luckily I did. Well, it went good, but then it went south pretty fast. A lot of people around here, it was 2020, September, like the very first weekend of bow season here in Missouri is like September 19th. And no one around here hunts before October. They're like, it's a waste of your time. It's too hot, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I'm excited. I want to go hunting. I had this buck on camera. I'm not going to not go just because it's hot. So that first morning, I went up to my stand, and all the bucks were in their bachelor group still. So I saw like 12 different bucks that day, and that's probably the most I've ever seen in my life, like in one sit. I was just mind blown. I was just waiting and waiting for him. I was like, come on. Then he never showed up but that morning. But then I went back out that evening, and kind of the same bucks kind of came back through. And I was like, man, I just don't know what group he's running with. Can't really seem to find him. And I was looking at my phone. It was like 7 o'clock at night. And I was like, well, the sun's going to set in like 5 minutes. So I have probably another 20 minutes of shooting light. And at 7:13, I saw this huge body coming through. I didn't even see the antlers yet, but I'm like, that's him. I'm like, oh my God. Like, for once, I actually picked the right spot to sit in and didn't listen to anyone about not going hunting. I'm like, I made the right choice. So I pulled my bow off of the hanger and was getting ready. And then I seen his antlers, and I'm like, yep, that's for sure him. And in front of my stand is where my camera's at, and it's like a group of trees. And I normally use that as, when they walk past that, that's when I draw back. So he was walking broadside to me, and once he stepped in front of those trees, I pulled back, and then he just stopped sitting behind the trees. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, please come on, just walk. So I'm like shaking so bad. And I thought he was going to keep going straight, but instead he made like a 180 kind of, or 270 degree turn, and came straight towards me from the tree. And I was just trying to get a good shot, and then he was getting close, and he was walking pretty fast, and I was kind of like going meh, trying to get him to stop or look up, but I don't know what he was doing, but he wasn't paying any attention to me. And he was probably 5 yards from my tree, about to be like behind the tree to where I couldn't shoot him anymore. And I rushed the shot and shot him in the shoulder, and it was just, I'm very upset. I cried immediately. I knew it was a bad shot, and I was like, oh, you should have just waited, and maybe you would have came back. You would have seen him a different day. And then I ended up finding the arrow, the next day I had my buddy has a blood tracking dog. They came out and he found the arrow immediately. And then after running around the mountains for like 2 hours, they're like, no, we're pretty sure he's still alive. So we had him back on camera 2 weeks later, but he was nocturnal. But he didn't seem injured really too bad or anything. And I haven't seen him since that 2 weeks after I shot him. So he could still be out there. I haven't heard anyone else shoot him or anyone say they've seen him. Everyone around here is pretty good at like, hey, I know you're going after this buck. I seen him, or this person shot him. So I have hope that he's still hiding somewhere.
I hope so. Excuse me. Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully he's still out there for you, because that is a very, very nice deer.
Yep. I haven't shot a buck with my bow yet. I've only shot one with my rifle, and I'm kind of just, my heart is set on him. It's almost, I don't want to shoot. I have a lot of other good bucks, but I don't really want to. It's like I want to save my first buck for him. Make it real special.
That would be truly special. Is there do you give other bucks names too, or was it just him that got the name?
Yeah, all of them. I have a few that I've been watching over the past few years.
How do you come up with the names? Just something random?
Just kind of random. I have like Nico. I think it's just because I like a Nikon camera. I was just looking at my camera. I was like, oh, Nico sounds like a good name. And then there's that one. And then like Tank was a 9-pointer. And then this other deer at a different property, he was a 9-pointer too. He's like pretty old. I just call him that 1-9. Yeah, that 9-pointer.
Some people don't like naming their deer. They say it makes it too personal. But I enjoy coming up with crazy names or whatever for deer, and it even putting names on it. I don't think I think of it that way, of it being too personal. I just have fun with it. I think that's what a lot of people lack anymore when it comes to deer hunting or outdoors in general, is just having fun. They want to take it too serious sometimes. So I just have fun with it and enjoy myself.
Yeah, I think whenever I name him, and then I don't know, it's like I get to watch him grow over like the past like few years and just get to know their patterns and like how they are. And then it's like once you do see them, I feel like it's just that much more special. And if you get to shoot them, you're like, I feel like you like respect them almost, because you're like, I got to know you so well and just really got to learn you. It wasn't just like, oh, it's just another deer. Like, this deer meant a lot to me, that I spent years watching it and waiting, and just kind of adds a little bit. I feel like it's personal, but I feel like it's almost more respectful for the deer. Like, you actually respect them. I
totally understand. Off-season chores. What exactly are you doing during the spring and summer months to get ready for deer season?
Oh, I don't really do too much. I'm really bad at leaving my stands out all year round. So I'm really lazy. I never take them down. I just kind of go and check up on them and make sure all my straps are good. And we do a few food plots here and there. So just kind of mowing that down and getting that planted. But this year, hopefully get a little more serious into food plots. I've never really done too much, just kind of some throw and grow, whatever will pop up. My spots are really bad at getting a lot of sun and not a lot of rain. So nothing really wants to grow too well, but I try my best. Throw and grow does pretty good for where I'm at.
Yeah, we did like a micro plot last year. It's in an overgrown pasture. We went in with the weed eater and cleared us out a spot and put it down, and it seemed to do very well. And then we went in there October 1st, and like I said, it's kind of like an overgrown cow pasture that they don't have cattle in anymore. And you could just see these highways going through the tall grass right into that spot. And then opening day later that night, we had 4 or 5 bucks in a bachelor group come right down the trails that we could see, and it paid off. So this year we're going to do it a little bit better. We're actually going to go in. There's actually like a little creek that runs through it. We're actually going to dig like a small pond in there, close to where we had that micro plot. And then we're going to do the plot even bigger this year. We're going to go in, spray it a week before or 2 weeks before, let it die, hit it with the weed eater, and then try the throw and grow on it again. We have access to tractors and whatnot, but to get back where we're at, it's really tight getting a bigger
Mhm.
tractor through there. So we're probably just going to have to go through there again with the throw and grow, which it did very well out there. It gets sunlight, it gets rain on it because it's kind of out in the wide open. And this pasture is just like a sanctuary. I feel like it holds big bucks all summer long. And then it seems like as soon as they go hard horn, they disappear. I don't
Yeah.
understand it. I still have not understood the thought process behind that. And some of them come back here and there, but we're after this one we call the muley buck. The one side of his rack looks like a mule deer, absolute giant of a deer. But I think we had pictures of him like the first weekend in October, and after that, he never showed back up. We had other bucks that did show up because the woods that butts up to this pasture holds a lot of does, so they're coming in and out there checking it a lot. But I'm excited to do some of these off-season chores, which is actually probably going to start this weekend.
Yeah, I need to get on that a little bit. Getting that time of year, everyone else around me is doing it. I'm like, oh, I'm always like the last person, just like, I'll be all right. And then I wonder why my food plot's nothing whenever it comes.
um, you talked a little bit about earlier when you were talking about tank, but early season. Talk about your approach to early season. Like you said, I know your season comes in there mid-September, so it's a little warmer than early October. But what exactly are you doing early season to try to get on them?
I kind of just have my one stand that I know that the bachelor group kind of hang around, and I just pretty much stick to that one stand. Every once in a while, I'll change it up just a little bit, but it's kind of like my go-to stand. It's just in the middle of our property, kind of where bucks almost have to go by
Mm-hmm.
to get from food source to like I know where they're bedding and stuff. So kind of just try to stick to one spot and figure out their patterns a little bit better.
I didn't know if you were hanging sort of close to like a bedding area or a water source or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of in between. I'm on like this ridge, and then on one side of the ridge is where a bedding is, and on the other side is like it's a river, but it's more like a creek. So
Mm-hmm.
they kind of just go back and forth over this ridge.
Sounds like a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
What about the rut? Is there anything you do special during the rut to try to get on them?
No, I feel like the rut where I'm at, they're just a free for all. There's kind of hard to pattern them here. I'll see bucks that I've never seen before running around, and all the bucks I have seen are gone, running around somewhere else. It's kind of just they just like switch spots or something. I'm not quite sure what they do.
I don't think anybody knows quite what
No,
they do.
no, it's kind of a fun time though, because then you get to see other deer, and you're like, oh, like maybe he was here this whole time. I just was in the wrong spots, or need to look farther into different places.
What time does that rut really hit hard there in Missouri?
A lot of people like me, it's youth season. Youth gun season is like the last weekend of October, so like Halloween weekend is normally when it is, and normally like that's when you want to be in the woods. So like we can still bow hunt while the youth hunters are hunting, but from like October 30th, like mid-November, I feel like they have our gun season is a little past the rut, but I'd say yeah, late October to mid-November is kind of when things really heat up.
You talked earlier about the Orange Army.
Oh
Is that
yeah,
something that's just too many people at certain times, or just
yeah.
depending on where you're at?
A lot of times, like when I'm sitting in my rifle stand, because where I sit for my bow, when I bow hunt, our neighbors, they're like older men. They go sit up there during rifle season, so I get kicked out of my spot, and all my deer had to go sit into a little box stand where I got put like for when I was 15. That's kind of like my spot, so I kind of get stuck into like this little tiny stand, and it's just I'll sit there and it's just shot, shot, shot from all around. I'm like, oh my lord! It's kind of you have to be ready because whenever you hear these shots, like, well, now the deer are going to be running around. So, and I feel like there's just so many people hunting in such little area that it's hard. The
Is
deer
it?
are really pressured, and
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
Is it something that there's groups of people that maybe just hunt that
Oh,
opening weekend and then they don't ever hunt again the rest of the
yeah.
year?
Hold on. Shut my
Oh, you're fine. That happens a lot. Seems like by us. I can remember being being younger, I'm more level headed now and think about my words before they come out of my mouth. But I can remember being 14, 15 years old and maybe being in the gas station on opening morning, or on opening morning we used to go to a truck stop diner and have like breakfast and stuff, and you see everybody's in there all dressed up in their orange and stuff, and I can remember guys saying, yeah, it's opening morning deer season, I've been waiting for months, and I'm like, buddy, I already been hunting like a month and a half. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been on these deer for a while now.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, especially when like where I hunt and the neighbors getting to hunt on our property a little bit whenever they have people from down south come up, and it's like I get kicked out of my spot that I put a lot of work into and watched these deer for years, and then for someone to just come up and take your spot and have a chance to shoot them, it's a little frustrating at times, but I would never want to take a chance away from someone to shoot a deer, but it's like a little bit of a heartbreak. And every time I hear one shoot, I'm like, oh, I kind of hope they missed, or it wasn't one of my deer. But I've been dealing with it since I started hunting, so I kind of just get used to it now. But it's just hard when someone who hasn't put in the work gets to come shoot your deer.
Yep, that happens quite a bit. What about your guys' deer population? Healthy deer population?
I know for the longest time our county was like the only one that didn't have to check in their deer for like chronic waste disease or anything like that. I think we have to this year, or we did last year, but for the longest time there wasn't really many cases in our county. I don't really ever really hear too much about from like the neighboring counties either, so they're pretty healthy around here.
How exactly does your your tags work? Is it something where like is it a $1 state?
One for like rifle season. I can shoot one with my bow too, or muzzle. I think it's like with your bow and then a rifle muzzle loader kind of thing.
How does your like antlerless quota work? Is it like per county or just like an overall state number?
I think it's per county. Per county.
Gotcha. Yeah, ours is like that too. It used to be just like kind of like a free for all. I remember there's certain counties in Indiana, you could shoot 8 does in a year, and now I think the highest number that I've seen is 3 or 4. So our deer population's hurting a little bit right now. I don't know exactly why that is. Hopefully those numbers get back up. I mean, we still have a healthy population overall. Like the other day, just driving home on the interstate on my way home, we just had a rain shower, and I look out and like both sides of the interstate are just covered in deer, and I'm like, I just got to keep looking forward because I just get over pumped up about deer season. I'm ready to go right now. I know I've said that like 5 times this podcast, but I'm getting pretty pumped up about deer season this year. Do you have any trips or any out of state sort of thing set up for deer, or are you just basically just hunting Missouri?
I pretty much just hunt Missouri. I would like to go to like Iowa or up north a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I'll just be here for this year for now.
Yeah, I did this is the first year I bought my preference points for Iowa. The first year that I'm eligible to draw for Iowa is 2028.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
5 years or?
Yep, 5 years is my first eligible year to draw a tag, and the guy that I'm kind of planning this with, I hope he hears this, Jordan Lane from Wisconsin. He already put like a deposit down on going to a place or whatever, and I'm like, man, that's like 5 years away. I'd probably forget that I gave the guy the money or something.
Since I didn't know it was that long of a wait for. Yeah, maybe I should look into that if I'm thinking about doing that because I'm the wait.
Yes, if Iowa is something that you want to do in the near future, you definitely have to look way in advance on that. And it sucks because June 1st was the cutoff date for your preference point, so it'll be year. 2029 before you're eligible to draw.
That's okay. I'll start saving my money.
Yeah, there you go. Talk about Her Wilderness. I know you're a big supporter of them, and they've done a lot of stuff for you. Talk about what Her Wilderness is and how you found it.
So Her Wilderness is a nonprofit organization. It just became a nonprofit this year. We basically just put on all women's trips to get women into the outdoors, like hunting, fishing, camping, shooting sporting clays, just meetups, kind of just to get females together that have similar interests and kind of get to talk and just rack each other's brains a little bit about what we like to do. And
Yeah.
I found it. I just started my outdoor Instagram account, and I guess I just followed a whole bunch of random outdoor accounts. I never really paid attention. And I was scrolling and they posted a picture, I think, of like a duck hunt. And I'm like, where did all these girls come from? Like, how do they have so many female friends that like to hunt and will just go do whatever? So I clicked on their page, and then they had a link in their bio, and I clicked on it. I'm like, oh, I'm like, these are trips you can just sign up and go on. And pretty much the next day I found a trip that I wanted to go on. I'm like, yep, I'm going. I'm like, I don't care if I don't know anybody. I'm just gonna
Well,
hope for the best.
talk about that first trip. Let's hear it. Let's hear the
So that was
story.
pretty good. I went to Minnesota on the Mississippi and did a bow fishing trip.
That's
It was,
awesome.
yeah, it was pretty fun. For down here, the Mississippi is huge. And I'm like, why would they bow fish on the Mississippi? But up there, it's shallow and clear. It looks like a completely different river than what it is down here in Missouri. And it was pretty cool. We had, I think, 18 of us girls. I think we took 3 different boats out and went out at like 8 p.m. until like 3 in the morning and just shot the hell out of some fish. And it was pretty fun just getting to meet new girls. I was really nervous at first, but it was a really welcoming group. And then pretty much fell in love with that since then.
I bet. Have you been on any more trips since the bow fishing trip?
Yep. That same year, that was, I think it was last year. Last year in May was the bow fishing trip. And then in July, I went fly fishing out in Wyoming, and which was a really neat experience. It was my first time out there. And then in November, we went down to Stuttgart, Arkansas. I think I'm
Nice.
saying that right. And we did
Yes.
a specklebelly goose hunt. And before that trip, I never even heard of those birds. And they're really pretty. And it was such a fun trip. We like limited out before the sunrise was completely done. And it was just an awesome trip. And that was my first waterfowl experience too. So that kind of got me addicted to that.
Oh, absolutely. That's a whole. Don't go down that rabbit hole because
Yes.
it is a rabbit hole, and you can consume yourself in it very quickly. I was huge into waterfowl for years. It almost consumed me for the latter part of my 20s. But waterfowl can be really fun. But talk about, like, I bet you those were you guys. There was probably some alcoholic beverages in there somewhere, wasn't there?
Maybe a few.
I
Some people
bet.
get a little more rowdy than others.
You're right. Um, as far as like dreams and goals, do you have any aspirations for anything?
Oh yeah, I definitely like. First, I've only shot one turkey in my whole life, and so maybe to get a little better at that and do the Grand Slam. With Her Wilderness, I'm a trip coordinator now, and so I get to run the trips. And so I just had my meeting with the owners, and she was like, well, what trips do you want to do in 2023? And I was like, I don't know. She's like, well, I would just make a trip that is your dream trip because then you get to go on it. I'm like, well, that's a good idea. So I'm planning a trip to Kansas to shoot a Rio,
Oh, that's awesome.
hopefully shoot a Rio. And I'm like, that would be awesome. That's probably one of my dreams is shooting a Rio. And I just want to do everything. It's kind of hard to do it all, but there's a whole bunch of other things I want to do. But
As far as like your outdoors page, talk
Mhm.
about that and what you have kind of set up to go forward with that.
Oh, it kind of just started. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I just kind of do it because I like to post about it,
Mm-hmm.
and which is how I ended up connecting with a lot of other women and other people in the outdoors. Uh, I don't really know where it's gonna go. I don't expect to get like famous or anything from it, but I just like to
Right.
post because it's fun for me, and then just getting to reach out and meet other people is kind of a nice little connection place, and not feeling judged when I post pictures of the animals I'm shooting or hunting, or
Right.
kind of just like my little safe space and just where I can be myself and not get judged.
No, I totally understand. It looks like you and your best friend have a lot of fun when it comes to posting on those
Oh
pages.
yes. I'm sure people judge, but at this point I don't
Oh
care.
no judgment on this side of things. I think it's fun to be, obviously be yourself. That's
Mhm.
what most people, like I talked about earlier. A lot of people miss that aspect of having fun and being yourself when it comes in the
Mhm.
outdoors. They want to be famous or to strive to be whatever, influencer or whatever it is you want to call it. And, like us here at Blue River Bowhunting, we just have fun with it. I mean, I never thought in a million years I'd have a podcast, and to do that and talk to so many regular people like myself that just want to go out there and have fun. I mean, there's a lot of people that I talk to that are very, very successful, and I like picking their brain and hearing how they do it, but just having fun. I think that's the name of the game for us as far as being outdoor content creators.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and giving us your time to understand her wilderness and hear everything you've done for self-taught bow hunting and everything you got going. But tell everybody where they can find you at on the old social media.
Oh, it is on both my Instagram and TikTok. I believe it's Kenny Outdoors, KYNNI_outdoors. So you can go follow me and watch all my ridiculous videos I make on TikTok.
That's awesome. Well, you can find Blue River Bow Hunting, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn for podcast hosts. But I appreciate anybody listening or watching on the YouTube. Give us a like, a comment, a rate and a review on the podcast sort of things. But everybody have a good rest of your week and have fun.